Good evening, and thank you for joining us at NBC Nightly News. I'm Brendan Irwin. Sources within Downing Street say that the Brexit talks have stalled because of disagreements within British Prime Minister Theresa May's cabinet. The sources told Bloomberg News that arguments broke out at a cabinet meeting, and May allegedly lost her temper a few times. Last year, May entered a general election with the highest approval rating of any prime minister since Margaret Thatcher. But now, she and her government are hemorrhaging popularity by the day, as they seem to be getting nowhere in the negotiations on the terms of leaving the European Union, which they're set to do in March, with or without a deal. Now, if the government fails to reach an agreement, it could have devastating economic impacts on Britain and could end up costing them billions of pounds. One point of contention is whether or not to have a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, the absence of which has helped to prevent violence between the two regions in recent years. Now, free movement between these regions is in doubt. Without a comprehensive deal, UK citizens living in the EU and EU citizens living in the UK could end up losing certain rights and privileges where they live. Could this spell an end to Theresa May's premiership? If her government fails to draw up an agreement, and since she's rejected calls for a second referendum, she could face a vote of no confidence or be forced to call another election. The deadline for official withdrawal, with or without a deal, is fast approaching, and so far, things are not looking good for May. After the death of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the hands of the Saudi government, Germany has announced that it will halt further weapons sales to Saudi Arabia. This comes as both a protest and a call to action. German Chancellor Angela Merkel also urged her allies to do the same to put pressure on Riyadh to provide a more credible explanation of Khashoggi's death. President Trump has so far refused to hold the Saudis responsible, citing the need to protect American jobs in the arms industry. But the president has issued contradictory statements, first saying that the king's denials of foul play were credible, and then later saying there was deception involved. Although the president has expressed doubts as to the credibility of the Saudi government's claims about Khashoggi's death, he has refused to abandon his ties to the Saudi royals and their economic benefit to his administration. Germany's moratorium on weapons sales to Riyadh was aimed at getting other weapons suppliers, in particular the United States, to condemn Saudi Arabia's alleged human rights violations. Are cows and industrial farming the leading cause of climate change? Well, according to research by UC Davis, the answer is no. One of the leading arguments against industrial meat farming is that large amounts of methane gas released from cows generate more greenhouse gases, thus worsening climate change. The study says that while this is partially true, it does not account for most greenhouse gases released into the atmosphere. According to this study, the majority of greenhouse gases continues to come from the emissions from burning fossil fuels and coal. But that's not to say we're off the hook in dealing with climate change. The UN now reports that the Earth only has until 2030 before the effects of climate change will be irreversible. That's less than 12 years from now. And finally, one of the most endangered species on the planet might be getting a second chance. The pangolin, a naturally armored anteater found in different varieties from southern Asia to southern Africa, is under threat of extinction because of illegal poaching. Prized for their meat, blood, and scales, over 1 million of them are killed every year. But a group of charity workers from the Tiki Highwood Trust in Zimbabwe created a sanctuary for these animals, each member taking one as a buddy, caring for them 24 hours a day, so that they can survive and forage naturally when they're released into the wild to repopulate. Not to mention that they're seriously adorable. That's it for NBC Nightly News. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. I'm Brendan Irwin, and from all of us at NBC News, thank you and good night.